We need to have a say in terms of how our education systems are run and what is taught.
Education, very underfunded.
No, there is not enough money. I know for our children post-secondary there's not enough money. Our education system needs to be revamped right from like kindergarten.
Education is the key foundation for improving the quality of life of any society. In Canada, the federal government has assumed responsibility for First Nations education through treaties and through a federal law called the Indian Act. In Ontario, there are 88 council-operated schools within First Nation communities. Many of the schools that our children attend have critical safety concerns such as mold, structural issues, lack of proper insulation, and the list goes on and on. First Nations operate schools on an outdated band school funding formula. The funding formula for First Nations schools ignores a number of costs, such as technology in schools, school libraries, vocational training in secondary schools, extracurricular sports and recreational activities, support for implementing provincial education reform, and providing students with a diversified curriculum such as sports, arts, music, language, and culture. Other factors, however, receive very little consideration. The most striking example is the teaching of First Nation languages, which is a critical issue to all of our First Nation communities. INAC allocates an amount of $185 per student to support First Nation languages, while provincial jurisdictions allocate many thousands of dollars per student for official languages. How can such a ridiculous amount ever seriously be expected to revitalize languages that are threatened with extinction? With an amount like this, it is impossible to set up immersion schools, pay a teacher, or even publish a school textbook.
In a real world, we would like our children to have their language in kindergarten, continue it, have our children grow up knowing who they are, what kind of people we were prior to the arrival of Europeans. We would like them to know what happened to our people during the occupation and the arrival of Europeans, and how we survived them afterwards.
And if we bring our schools back home, our students back home, and start teaching our language right from day one, right on up, that is education to me. I mean, it's good to go to college and universities and grade, but the base, you got to have your grounding, you got to have your base.
You know, they still hit the roadblocks of financial problems when they get to post-secondary. No, there is not enough money. No, for our children post-secondary there's not enough money. Our education system needs to be revamped right from like kindergarten.
We have a lot of dedicated people that see education as important for the future development of our young people.
we are able to take post-secondary education to the communities. And then it's a challenge.
First Nations have taken measures to establish educational institutions and support systems to address community needs in post-secondary education. First Nation institutions have demonstrated the successful delivery of post-secondary programs in Ontario since 1985 and contributed to the increasing number of Aboriginal people with post-secondary credentials. First Nation institutions are expected to perform as well as mainstream colleges and universities without the same level of support. The federal and provincial governments both make contributions in support of program delivery, but neither government is prepared to provide the level of support to First Nation institutions that is available to mainstream post-secondary institutions, like annual operating grants, targeted special grants, infrastructure and research grants. We can understand the frustration of our principals, teachers, parents, and children that are faced with funding formula that does not address different operating costs of a school in the 21st century. The fact remains that there is no source of adequate and sustainable funding for First Nation institutions. This situation places First Nation institutions at an unfair and disadvantaged position, and the extent of needs for programs and services continues to be unmet. The Ontario post-secondary education system has been built upon a variety of funding envelopes to address a wide range of needs. First Nation institutions require equitable consideration. In a report published in 1996, the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples warned the Canadian government of enormous costs that its inertia could mean. There would be a low productivity because of a low level of First Nation participation in the work market, as well as rapid increase in the costs due to a high level of dependency on the welfare programs. The Commission recommended, therefore, that the government fund change. More than 10 years later, the results speak for themselves. First Nations stand to gain individually and collectively if Canada accepts to invest in the educational successes. Canadian taxpayers would also gain, as there would be fewer people on benefits to support, fewer health problems, less criminalization, and at the same time, more qualified workers for the prosperity of First Nation communities and Canada as a whole. Help us work towards a better future for all of our children. Miigwech. Nyali.